Aloha and welcome to Sister Girl Read the Bible, a community of women who decided to grow closer to God through reading one chapter or chapters of the Bible each day. Every day except Sunday, we'll post a video or audio recording of our daily teaching from Scripture from different leaders. Now, whether you're watching our Sister Girl Read the Bible video online or listening to our podcast, this is the place for you to be equipped, empowered, and encouraged. And if you're joining us for the very first time, we like to extend to you an extra warm welcome. Now we invite you to pull up a chair unless you're already seated and join us as we journey through Scripture.
Good morning, Sister Girl. Good morning. It's so good to be with you this morning. My name is Arlene Sumter, and today I'm going to give you an overview of our assigned reading for today, and that is Exodus chapter 37 to 39. The portion of scripture that I'm going to focus on, though, is chapter 39, and we're going to be looking at verses 42 to 43. But as we look at chapters 38 to 37 and 38, we see that God has given Moses instructions to give to the people on making the furnishings that go inside the tabernacle. There are instructions for building the Ark of the Covenant, the altar of incense, the altar of burnt offering, for making the table of showbread, the golden lampstand, the bronze basin. And then as we come into chapter 39, we see instructions on making the priestly garment. As I said, the portion of scripture that I want to focus on, though, is Exodus chapter 39, and it's verses 42 and 43. And it says this: according to all the Lord commanded Moses, so the children of Israel did all the work. Verse 43, then Moses looked over the work, and indeed they had done it as the Lord commanded, just so they had done it. And Moses blessed them. I love the last portion of that scripture. It says, and Moses blessed them. When I read this, I really sensed that God was speaking to me, and maybe to you too, that there are things that you and I can do that merit his blessing. The things that we can do that God will just bless us for because of our obedience, because of our faith. God will give us a blessing when we're obedient and faithful to doing the work that he's called us to do. So I want to take some time and look at some of the things that we can learn from these portions of scriptures, things that we should embrace, things that we can do so that we can too walk in the blessings of God. The first thing I believe that God wanted us to understand is that he changes hearts. He wants us to understand that he is a God who changes hearts. Many times you and I can look back over our past, right? And we can look at the mistakes that we made. Maybe we made a mistake in leadership. Maybe it was a sin that we committed. Whatever that mistake was, sometimes when we make a mistake in the past, we disqualify ourselves, from things that God has called us to do right now. We get this mentality and begin to think that we can't do it. We're incapable, we're unable, we're not qualified. I want us to know this morning that we serve a God who changes hearts. I want us to take a moment to look back at Exodus chapter 32. In Exodus chapter 32, we see the Israelites at this time participating in worshiping a golden calf. There, Moses is up on a mountain. He comes down from the mountain, and there's the children of Israel with Aaron, and they're worshiping this golden calf. They have taken off all the jewelry, and they made this golden calf, and they said, this is our God who's among us. But now, as we come to chapter 39, we see that God has changed their hearts. They are now faithfully doing work for God. They are faithfully devoted to God. If we go back to chapter 32, we also see that when the people are worshiping the golden calf, that Moses is angry at them. But as we come into chapter 39, we now see that Moses is blessing the people. Why? Because God changes hearts. I don't want you to be discouraged, sister girl, because God does not disqualify you from doing a work for God today because of something that you did in the past. I don't care how badly you messed up. I don't care how poor your leadership was. I don't care what mistakes you made. Let's move forward. God changes hearts. He teaches us new lessons. So walk in the calling that God has given you today. Do the things that He's called you to do today. All right. We see this in chapter 39. We see a people who are fully devoted to God, a people who are doing a work of God, for God. All right. A second lesson that we can learn, or second thing that we see in the scripture, is that Moses is not afraid or intimidated to give specific instructions to the people to do a work for God in a specific way. All right. Many times we get intimidated or we become afraid to ask people to do a certain thing in a specific way. We don't want to raise the standard. We just want to be mediocre. We have this mediocre standard. Well, it's okay. It's all right. It's good enough. No, it's not good enough when it comes to the work of the Lord. If God has told you to require other people to do a work at a certain standard, then hold that standard. Don't be afraid to ask people to give more so that the work that we do together will honor God. Whether you're a mom with your children, or a housewife, a business owner, a business leader, a pastor, a minister, have a standard. Have a standard and hold to that standard. Do not lower that standard. Moses did not accept mediocre work. As a matter of fact, scripture lets us know that Moses looked over the work to make sure that it matched the standard that God had given him. Why? Because he wanted to make sure that everything honored God. So as a leader, have a standard and hold to that standard. Don't be intimidated. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like, oh, I'm asking too much. Don't feel like, oh, they're volunteers and it's okay. I'm going to be a little easy on them. Remember, you're doing a work for God. You're doing a work for God. Have a standard and require people to rise up to that standard. All right. I want to speak to those who are under your leadership. And we're all under the leadership of God, all right? Remember, no matter what our boss, our leader, our supervisor may ask of us, we're doing this for God. We're not doing it for man. We're doing it for God. So therefore, we must give our best. Let's not get frustrated in the things that we're doing. Let us not throw up our hands and be so quick to walk away. We are doing a work for the Lord, not for man, but for God. So in the midst of this, let us continue to allow God to change our hearts, because that's what He wants to do. He wants to change our hearts. As we look in these scriptures, what we see is God is changing hearts. And as He changes hearts, there's a blessing that comes with it. There's a blessing that comes with it. I don't know about you, but I want the blessing. All right. Well, God bless you, my sister girl. I'll talk to you later.